Hello, I'm going to talk about technology advances and artificial intelligence and their impact on the interpreting profession. I believe that nowadays it's quite difficult to be surprised by new technology because we see new inventions every day. Everything changes very, very quickly. I remember that when I was very little, my father one day brought home one of the first color televisions, and we spent many days, actually weeks, watching a lady who walked in a garden full of colored flowers, with the background of classical music and a soft voice repeating every 5 minutes, broadcasting tests. I think that they were testing the chromatic scale for the color TV then, but it took some time before we could actually then watch a program in colors, and it was a real wonder because technology moved at a much slower pace. So to give you an idea, the telephone took 75 years from its invention to reach 100 million people. And Instagram gained the same number of users just in 2 years. So we have moved so rapidly in the last couple of decades and have come to what some consider to be the fourth industrial revolution, with artificial intelligence, 3D printing, automatic cars, augmented bodies. It's an era that brings machines and humans closer, connecting the physical, digital, and biological world. And if on one hand humanity has welcomed these changes, on the other hand it fears them very deeply. First of all, because they're so quick, it's difficult to adapt, and people are worried about their jobs. We have gradually seen machines replacing less specialized workers, also in supermarkets, in banks. But the technological evolution is affecting all sectors now in different ways, including our field, the translation and interpreting industry. So should we be worried for our profession? Should we see technology as an ally or as a competitor? In truth, technology has provided invaluable support to interpreters over the years. Conference interpreting, for example, started in the 1920s with the development of the first electro-acoustic sound transmission systems. Then we replaced our heavy printed dictionaries with electronic dictionaries, and we've been using translation software and corpora database, glossary-organisers. Public service interpreters have been working from remote since the late 1970s, thanks to the technology which allowed telephone-mediated interpreting, and then since 1990 with video-mediated interpreting, which, as we can see today, is a very effective and useful mode of interpreting. So more recently, many interpreters are also exploring the use of electronic devices, like tablets and digital pens with recorders, microphones, to improve note-taking in consecutive interpreting. So whilst interpreters have become increasingly more involved with technology, developers have been exploring the market of automated translation, most likely using the data unintentionally provided by the interpreters and translators themselves and anybody else using their services. Google's translation service, one of the most popular, started in 2002 just with 5 languages. Now it supports 109 languages, and there are over 200 million people actively using it every month. After the success of machine translation, then speech-to-speech translation was developed using a software that is able to convert speech into text using speech recognition, and then to translate the text into another language to finally produce it through speech synthesis. There's many developers of speech-to-speech translation software who are now trying to take over this market with apps that can be downloaded on the phone or dedicated devices and wearables such as wristbands or earpieces that are meant to be less visible to better mimic a natural conversation between people. Some researchers believe that these devices will soon be able to interpret as well as humans, envisioning a future collaboration between artificial intelligence and interpreters only for projects that need to be quality guaranteed. However, these devices are still far from providing a natural conversation between two people, which is a very complex task that relies on creativity skills and that involves the contextual use of language. Machine interpreting still has to overcome lots of challenges like the subjectivity of the language, its close relation to human feelings and emotions. Then there is the translation of humor and the way tones change the meaning of words, plus the strong connection that there is between language and culture. So there is no clear evidence that speech-to-speech interpreting will be as effective as human interpreting. Many of these applications are able to produce some adequate spoken translations, but only for very simple and clearly spoken out sentences. Many of the tests which have been carried out on these devices show serious weaknesses in voice recognition, especially in presence of different accents. So nowadays trying to have a conversation at the pace of the machine, checking for errors in back translation and making an effort to speak clearly is quite demanding. Also, the machine's output lacks the variety and the spontaneity of the human voice, and so it may sound very monotonous, removing from the conversation the pleasure of communicating, which is a very important aspect of any interaction or negotiation. So finally, I'd say that for all of these reasons, using machines in the place of interpreters could even be possible in future, but may not become the preferred way by the majority of people, especially in contexts when tact, accuracy, and sensitivity are required.